Hi guys! In today's video we'll be making the earth element inspired doll to finish my elemental series. For this doll I chose to make her with her eyes closed, making her look at peace and very serene. And just as the other elements, I perceive them as being sort of elemental fairies, so she also has wings. My idea was that she was kind of resting inside a tree, and this is her emerging from the tree, which is why some parts of her are still covered in bark, so that was inspiration. I used this Monster High Nymph Denial doll as the base for this project. I chose her because of her skin tone, since I thought it would look very good for the earth element. Again, I'm using a second-hand doll, and this is quite worn, as you can see that the face is partly worn off, but she'll still be suitable for this project. I started by removing all of her hair, since I bought some that was a different shade of green. Then use some nail polish remover or straight up acetone to remove the face. I start by using some Q-tips and then use a cotton pad. Clean the doll's face and then prime it with 3 thin coats to the Mr. Super Clear spray. I then use my watercolor pencils and some chalk pastels for the repaint. Since I had decided to make her eyes be closed, I started by some general shading around the nose, the eye socket, the corner of the eye, and also around the face. To make sure my shading would stay in place, I sealed it in with the spray again before I worked on top. Following the sculpt of the doll, I used a dark brown pencil to draw the lash line on the closed eye. For the eyebrows, I first blocked off the shape using a green pencil, and then I used a brown pencil on top to deepen the color a bit. After being sealed with the spray, I feel that the pastel often loses a bit of its intensity, so I like to shade in layers. I added a bit of green pastel onto the lips just to give them a slight green tint. I used a lighter tone of pastel to add subtle highlights around the face and add a bit more dimension. Even if you're doing a quite simple face repaint like this one, I really think it adds a lot if you go in with shading and highlights, because if you don't add dimension, the original color of the plastic can just look very flat. In this final layer, I used the watercolor effect of my black pencil to make a more saturated black for the lashes. After that I went in with some black pastel to deepen the shading a little further. When you're happy with the look of the face, give it a final spray of Mr. Super Clear. I used regular eyelashes, which I cut into smaller bits before gluing them onto the eyes. Once I had the amount on I wanted, I then trimmed them to size. I decided to add a bit of glaze to the lips just so they had a slight sheen when they dried. For the hair, I used this shiny viscose fiber in an olive green, which I got off eBay. I choose to glue the hair straight onto the head because I prefer the look of this rather than rerouting, because I think rerouting takes way too long, first of all, but also I think it gives too full a head of hair and I like to keep it slightly thinner. And that's the head done. Onto the body. I chose her pose and then I glued the joints shut. I went for this pose because I thought it looked kinda like a tree. Then I took some air dry clay and used glue to stick this onto the body to cover the parts I wanted to be covered. I would then used a sculpting tool to add a bit of liney texture to make it look kinda like bark. Once you're happy with the coverage, you leave it all to dry. Once dry, you can use acrylic paint to paint it. I started with a lighter brown, kinda like an inside wood color, and then after that I used a ripped off makeup sponge to sponge on darker brown. Once I started sponging on the color, it occurred to me that if you didn't know I was going for a look of wood, then I guess it would look kinda like she was covered in soil, but I guess her coming up of the ground would work as well. I decided to add a bit of shading to the rest of the body, so I gave the whole body a spray of Mr. Super Clear and then used the same brown pastel as for the face to add some general shading where I felt there would be shadows. And then after that, I sealed it in with a spray again. I used some green dried moss and glued this on the back of her hips, so it's kind of peeking out from both sides, kind of like a very not covering skirt. I used a bit of green eyeshadow to highlight the moss, but you can skip this step. For her wings, I used these dry transparent leaves, which I glued onto her back, and I also added a bit of plastic leaves onto her hand and also to her chest. Then all I did was glue her to a doll stand, and then she's done. And here she is all done. I feel she's a lot different from the previous 3, but I also do feel that the element of earth is a little different than the others, in the sense it doesn't have a flowy character to it. So I really like the way she turned out. Some of you guys requested to see all of the element dolls together, and I've decided to make a separate video with a little showcase of them, so that I can go into detail with more of the process on how they turned out to be the way they are. So stay tuned for that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave me a like if you did, and I'll see you guys in a new one real soon. Bye!